Welcome, friends and family. We're back with another episode of the Son of a Mother Show, where it's my mother and I talking news, life, family, books, movies, politics, answering questions, parenting, all the above, and nothing is off limits. Mom, are you ready?
I'm ready. Ooh, so what you gonna do now? So you run to the river, you run to the sea, sift through the rubble and search the debris, but you won't find anything if you don't find peace. Ooh, babe, so what you gonna do now? Don't wait until you die.
All right. Finally, I was able to pick a song. It's been this is the third episode now that I've been able to pick a song, or second episode. I don't know.
I know it's your favorite thing to do. So go ahead.
But it was like it was like a game time situation. It was like a game time situation for me. So this band is called Honey Honey, and I was introduced to this band by Joe Rogan. So for all you guys that know, I'm pretty obsessed with the Joe Rogan Experience, right? Which is my favorite podcast.
Along with a lot of other people.
You're right, because he's like probably the top 3 podcast on iTunes.
I think he's number one.
A lot of times it's categories. So in a lot of categories, he's definitely number one.
Yes.
And so each week he comes out with like 3 or 4 podcasts. Each of them are 3 hours long. And most weeks I listen to all of them. So whenever we're like listening to a book, I miss like the end of the book, and probably because that was wasting my time doing that. But so anyway, so this band right there, it's a guy and a girl together, and and they're not married, they're not dating or anything, and they like it just like works for them. But they performed this song. The song that I have on there is actually their live performance from the podcast. So, and it's like a different version of the song they have like on Spotify. So you have to go to the Joe Rogan's YouTube channel to listen to it and watch them. But the girl plays the violin while he plays the acoustic guitar.
And I think I've seen them on YouTube.
She sings, and I can't wait. They tour a lot of the Midwest, and like Texas, Tennessee area, that type. I can't wait till they come near us, because I'm definitely going. It's cool to see the music, like the musical instruments being used, as well as like just straight voice, like such a strong voice. And she's this like little small brunette girl, and you're like, damn, got a lot of voice. And
awesome.
So my wife and I, we always like just blast Honey Honey all the time. It's like just chills you out. So I was playing Honey Honey this morning, and I was like, this is the song that I'm going to use for episode 7. And we're here, my friends. We have our books to go over, movies we've seen, and talking about podcasts. We're going to start talking about current events with podcasts, because a huge, huge happening just took place this past week in the podcast world.
Yes, and do you want to talk about that first? We can talk about him first.
Okay, we could talk about that first. So one of the top podcasts, again, in the podcast world is Dan Carlin's Hardcore History, right? And if you like history and you're not listening to this, then you don't like history. So you must listen to this freaking show.
You know what I thought was the most interesting is that when I was looking it up today, is that he only comes out with one every like 3 to 5 months, and yet he's still in the top 5.
Yeah,
like he can have one show every 3 to 5 months and he wins awards. I mean,
So take the second, right, and go to the Hardcore History website, right? Excuse me. Each time that he comes out with an episode, it's just the graphics he has on the website.
I didn't go to the website. I should do that.
Theme. You go there. He explains all, especially for this one, which is titled Kings of Kings. There's so many people, and you're getting into Xerxes, all these like guys' names. You're getting these ancient Syrian names, and you're like, "Ooh, this is tough to keep up with." So the podcast was 3 hours long, and the last one he came out with was back in May. So this is actually going to be a series. He announced it at the end, like, it's going to continue. King of Kings is going to continue. So you go through the whole 3 hours pretty much, and it's not till the last hour you start to see who's he talking about. That's the King of Kings, and he talks about Cyrus the Great. I almost said Siri. Cyrus the Great, right? And this guy has actually contributed a lot with the introduction to human rights. Every time he would conquer countries, he would like take their king in and be like, "Come, be my advisor. Come, be my advisor." And if that's not the smartest thing to do in the world, I don't know what is, because most of the smartest men in the world have contributed their success to, or attributed their success to, surrounding themselves by smart people. And this this guy understood that to a great ordeal, and he grew, like, Dan Clark explains his empire and where he took it from, and how it's just this small little area to pretty much he was known as the King of Kings, and he owned Asia, like all of Asia. It was, and you think about back in that time period and how long ago that was, and to own that much land, like there wasn't a text message, "Hey bro, what's going on over there in Eastern Asia? We all good?" Yeah, we're good. No. You are like horseback by like months.
Not even a phone call.
Exactly. And then horseback back months. Yeah, things aren't going over there. Okay, go over there. Tell him to do this. All right, months. It's wild.
And in the meantime, we'll go do stuff.
and the historians that account, these stories, right? When we were talking about earlier, are telling these stories, knowing that a lot of this stuff is probably not true. They have no idea how this guy died, right? All of a sudden, they stopped writing about him. So historians are like, well, we have no idea how he dies. So the historian that is attributed with the most accurate accounts, like, made it up. Like, oh yeah, he went and attacked this woman. I forget what their tribe was, and she was like just this crazy goddess queen, and Cersei's killed his son, or her son, and then she killed him, and you're just like, but that you have no idea. They're telling these stories of this guy hundreds of years after. I mean, we're talking time periods of 500 BCE. Like,
right.
What? Can you even comprehend? There's like civilization back then. Like, it's insane. And a lot of these stories intertwine with the Old Testament of the Bible, which I thought
was really cool when he kept referencing the Bible.
Yeah.
But then he, and for all the Christians out there, do not take offense to this, because I'm assuming he is not a Christian. I don't know that for a fact. I don't know either. Yeah. But, he even picks out all the inaccuracies in the Bible. Because in the book of Daniel, he was like, well, it said this, but actually what it meant. And he uses 5 different versions of the Bible. And they all say something different. And then he's like, okay, well, let's go with the King James, because this explains it a little bit better, but they still don't have it right. Yeah. And I was like, wow, this dude is smart. I mean, he's like...
very smart. And he uses different historians like that account differently toward events as well. He'll say, yes, this person said this about, but if you look at this historian that's known for a little bit more expertise in this time period, they say this, but he uses the Bible as more as a history book. And a lot of the time people don't realize that it is a lot of a history book.
Exactly.
But like any history book, the Old Testament, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like any history book, there's gonna be inaccuracies. Okay,
right.
You got these people that are writing about stuff hundreds of years before them. Be like, hey mom, can you tell me about the 17th century real quick? Can you write a book about that real quick? Yeah, just do some research and then let me know what you thought about it. Write a book, and then thousands of years later, they're gonna take your book and you'll be like, this is the most accurate account, and then you're sitting there like, not sure what happened here. Let's just say that he died from this girl. Sure. And then publish it.
Mark has a very, what he says all the time, because he's a history, major, and knows a lot about history. But he always says the people who get to write about history are the ones who win if they can write.
Yeah, a lot of time.
They have to be able to write, and some of those people couldn't write.
Yeah. And I can't imagine how boring some of those books are to read. And for people that love history, right, the amount of books that he reads, I've looked up the sources that he uses, because you can go to the website, it lists all the sources, and you're like, good God. And you look up these books on Amazon, you can't find them on Amazon, right? So you have to go to the library, right? And there are thousands of pages, and he just takes apart books, and you're
goes back to why he only puts out a podcast every 3 to 5 months. You mean?
Yeah. Yep. And so there's a new guy out there that was just on the Joe Rogan podcast as well. He started a history podcast. He's an Italian professor. His name, I can look it up real quick, but his podcast is called History on Fire. And if you can get past the Italian accent, it's really good, but he attributes Dan Carlin a lot to the success of, or to the introduction of his show. And he talks about how much research goes into each episode and how it's only going to be, he's going to try to be more frequent than Dan Carlin, is what I guess his angle is. But it's pretty wild that you have these historians that are able to tell a story that when history ranks within school as one of the worst hated classes consistently, able to tell these stories that are so entertaining and so interesting, that a history podcast is winning awards in the podcast world. A history podcast, like,
and that is so true, because kids don't want to hear about history. Ian and Ethan tell me all the time, it's boring. Who cares? Who cares what happened? When you listen to him, you're like, I don't know, it's a little interesting, I think, but we've always been into history, but a lot of kids aren't into history, and you try to explain to them how awesome history is, and
it's definitely because of his narration. His narrating ability
definitely.
His journalism is on, because he was a journalist first. Dan
he was also a radio. You can tell he was a radio guy.
Yeah, so his voice. He says in the beginning, he says that you have. And in any account that you're in your journalistic nature, you have to tell the story, and it has to be entertaining. So he takes his history and not like, okay, at 536 BCE, this is what happened. No, it's like, it's so in depth, and you're like peeling back layers of the story, and then you see like the pit of the fruit or whatever, and you're like, wow, this is crazy. And then he starts peeling it back for you, try to see the 30,000 foot view, and you're like, damn, all this is going on. He was doing this, and you're just like, damn, this is nuts. If I'm a history professor, okay, all I do is I do my curriculum off of whatever podcast that he's doing at that same time, and we listen to like 20 minutes of it, and then we talk about it, and we watch other videos that he does about, look at timelines, and we just dive so deep into that, because I know it's going to be interesting, because I could just play him. And then I can piggyback off that. If I'm a history professor and you're not telling your people to listen to the Dan Carlin Hardcore History podcast, you are doing a big disservice to your students.
I watched an interview with him. I looked him up on YouTube, and I watched an interview he gave, and I thought that the most interesting thing about him, and he is not a boring guy. You can watch him on anything.
He's a lot younger than I thought.
He is younger than I thought, but he said, think back in history, in our history, like in your short life, like think about 9/11, and then think about 10 minutes before 9/11.
Right.
And he's like, that's what gets him. He's like, it's the 10 minutes before a life-changing event. And I remember like on 9/11, I was grocery shopping at Wegmans with Ian. He was a baby. I had him, I get back to the apartment that we were living in while our house was being built, and I get a call from Dad, turn on the TV set. Bam. It's like, okay, life was good. Everything was fine.
Scared
and then, and he said, like, history is like that, though. Like 10 minutes before JFK got shot. 10 minutes, take any historical event and then go 10 minutes before. Yeah. Everything was good. Everybody was doing their thing. And then all of a sudden an event happens and it changes what you were doing.
That's common to Bill O'Reilly, because that's how he writes his books. He'll say, he goes, there stands the man, John F. Kennedy, tightening his tie, the man who has just 28 minutes to live. And you're like, damn, and he's just sitting there and he's staring at himself.
And he's, straightening his tie.
He's getting ready.
You're right. He does. Bill O'Reilly does a great job of that. Yes.
So that's kind of similar with what Dan Carlin has said with or being so interested in the time period beforehand.
Yeah, it's very cool. And since you brought up Bill O'Reilly, I just want to put out there that he's getting really attacked right now by that book. killing Reagan. Yeah. Except for I posted a video on our page, on our Facebook page.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'd want to argue that with him. They're not winning.
I think people should try it because I think
and he welcomes them. He's like, sure, you can come on my show. I'll give you 10 minutes to tell me how I was wrong. And then, 2 minutes in, he's already making them stammer and stutter and, because.
Yeah, I watched the video that you shared, which was definitely, guys, if you're not on the Facebook page, we're sharing different videos and relevant to what we're talking about. But the interview he just destroyed the guy.
And does he look worried for a second?
No. You do the homework and you're like, okay, you're not going to come out. So someone that's going to come and tell me that I don't know what I'm doing with like strength and conditioning, I'm like, okay, go keep going. I'll wait for you to stop. And then we'll talk. I mean,
when you're confident in what you do, you're confident. And I give him credit for putting him on his show. Anybody who he thought had a valid, he was like, okay, this is out in the media. Let's address it. Go ahead, go. Yeah. And then he's like, all right. And did you hear the end of it? The end of the video?
No.
He was like, okay, go away.
Yeah, that's funny. Okay, go away. That's
okay.
Funny.
Go away. And then he just zooms off the screen. He's like, and back to other news.
So I know that you had like weird biased opinions about him before. Like, what was that based off of? I know a lot of people don't like him because he's an asshole, or is it just?
Yeah, I don't know that. But then okay, so Ian and I have this conversation all the time. So you take these guys that you would consider an asshole, right? Yeah. Like, would you want to be best friends with Bill O'Reilly? I don't know. He's really arrogant. But then in another sense, you look at him and you're like, you kind of admire that arrogance because it comes from an excellence, because he'll say that like Derek Rose. Okay. We went to see the Bulls game on Monday. Yeah. You watch Derek Rose. Arrogant as hell. Like you don't think you'd want to be best friends with Derek Rose because it'd be all about Derek Rose and I'm not sure you'd get a word in. Yeah. And he doesn't talk that much. But you know what I'm saying? But then on the other hand, you look at them and you're like, but he's so good. But he's not, he does this and but don't you have to be, in order to be that good, do you have to have that arrogance?
I think so. Okay, so today,
so too.
Today, as we're recording this, it's November 11th, which is Veterans Day. And it was funny because we were just talking about, the day before Veterans Day is November 10th, which is Marine Corps birthday. Mm-hmm. And you go on Facebook and it's all Marine Corps birthday stuff. Everyone's sharing videos and the reason for this is the Marines have an arrogance and it's brainwashed into us from boot camp. No one comes close to us. No one's as good as you are. And you're on the top. And you know why you're on the top? Because I'm going to treat you like shit for 3 months and 3 months. And then I'm going to continue to treat you like even more shit after boot camp because then you're a Marine and then you have no rights. So I'll treat you like more shit and you're just going to walk around pissed off. That's what they say about Marines are so great because we take food and sleep from them, so that pisses them off more. So when they go fight, it's just devastation. Just doesn't, it's just not even fair type thing. And the arrogance is it's got to be humbling in the sense, but it's also got to be prevalent to uphold the image, right? I didn't tell you this, but a quick story is I got an email last night from this guy that watched my YouTube video. It was how to lose weight for the Marine Corps. Mm-hmm. He emails me, starts off by saying he's a junior in high school, and he goes on for like a paragraph and the whole paragraph is like just terribly written, misspelled words. Just I'm trying to get through it. I'm like, what is this dude saying? And I said, first of all, what do your grades look like? Because I'm not going to have the Marine Corps have these people come in the Marine Corps and just be, ignorant to the world and just be like, oh, just let the Marine, no, not my beloved Marine Corps. I'm not going to help you if you can't even structure a sentence properly. Okay. I wasn't that nice to him, but I was like, if this scares you off, then you're not ready. And I haven't received any email from him, but it is like, you have to maintain that to uphold this great image.
Right. And so sometimes when Bill O'Reilly would be interviewing people and, I used to think, oh, he's such an arrogant ass. Like, and I politically, I don't have as big a problem with him as a lot of people do. I always thought in the beginning, like, is he conservative? And then I'd be like, yes, he's conservative. Is he liberal? Yes, he's definitely liberal. So the fact that he can get me to think both ways, I give him credit for because he's on Fox. It's a conservative, news station. But I really think he tries very hard to stay and go ahead, send emails now. just start sending them, because I know people out there are not going to agree with me. They think if you're liberal, he's conservative. If you're conservative, he's too liberal.
Yeah, I don't
that's
like
the way it is.
I'm not a fan of titles. I'm really not, because I might have viewpoints that might be a little bit right side, might be left side. I'm more of the
So I thought he
libertarian
did a good
viewpoint.
job in not, I think he can interview anybody, but like I said, it was more his arrogance that sometimes just threw me. But now I look at it and I'm like, you know what? I think I need to take a step back on the arrogance thing, because there's a place for it. And then at the same time, the people that we do look up to have Tiger Woods. I mean,
Michael
in
Jordan.
his day, Michael Jordan.
He's
Kobe
one of
Bryant.
the biggest,
Yeah,
one of the biggest arrogant motherfuckers out there.
Exactly. So Kobe's
Michael
been
Jordan,
said to, that's true of him too. Just think of these people that are the masters in what they do.
Yeah. Well, when you work that hard at a craft and you put that much time and dedication into something, it can irritate you when someone feels like they can step up to that level and they're not, and you're like, what are you even saying? Like, who are you? It's that story with Gary Player. When Dan John met Gary Player and someone told Gary Player, I wish I had your worst round. And Gary Player said to him, do you know what it took to have my worst round when my hands were bleeding on the range and I'm hitting hundreds of balls a day? You know what it took to have my worst round? You just think you can have my worst round? Like, get out of here. And Gary Player is a Hall of Fame golfer, and everything he puts out there is so nice, so humbling. But when you kind of come at him in that level or that direction, he can be very arrogant, very very just, I don't know. It's a crazy mindset, and I think that it's important. I really do. So
I do too. So anyway,
let's
go on to the
book. So we said 2 weeks ago before we did the last podcast, which I want to thank you guys for all the support that you guys had through
we got so much
episode
much love from that.
So much love with the show that was dedicated to your mom and my grandma, and it was the emails, the messages was awesome. Really brought her life or her story to life, and we're excited to have that for the future. So
yes, we'll be doing many shows like that in different ways, but at least we now know it's a great way to honor people, and
for sure. Be
people
happy
are
about
really
it. Yeah,
exactly. And everybody was very happy that we were happy, which I'm really glad. They were like, "Oh, it wasn't depressing. I was so afraid it was going to be." I'm like, "Nope, we talked about it.
That was the first thing I talked to Kara about it. I was like, "Mom held it together." She's like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah, she held it together." She was like, "Wow, okay, cool." She's like, not as afraid of it. I was listening to it because yes, it could get, you could take that direction. So it's not. But like I was saying, a week prior to that, we said we were going to read The Girl on the Train, which is one of the novels out there that has been on the top New York Times bestselling.
Okay, let me just give you some stats on this book.
Yeah.
As to why because you picked it.
Yeah.
And I know why. Okay. It debuted as #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. It stayed there for 13 weeks at #1.
Damn.
Okay. And it was the beginning of the year. It came out in January. So until April, it was the, best book in the country. And, I remember it. It's not like I don't. I remember, of course, because I spent half my life in Barnes and Noble. And I remember seeing it, and I really just wasn't that interested. And I don't know why. I was reading other stuff, I guess. But when you picked it, I was like, all right, let's do this. Let's find out what
it's
is
been on my
so
wish
awesome.
list. Yeah, it's been on my wish list.
And you're like,
for so
okay,
long.
let's just check this off and see what everybody's talking about. And, so my first reaction, you got to hear.
Yeah.
Okay. I was pissed. It's depressing.
Right.
And Zach, because I know you're listening, this fiction versus nonfiction, halfway through this book, I was like, okay, I don't need to be this depressed. I really don't. I was having a good day. At least with nonfiction books, we kind of know how it ends. They're not going to throw us any loops in the middle. It's going to be okay. I know what's going to happen.
It's going to try to uplift me.
Yeah, I know. And I know they're good. I know we pick people that the stories are happy endings and, good things come out of. This book was going bad. And let me just explain. Rachel is the main character. Okay. She is a raging alcoholic. Things happen when that woman goes into blackouts, okay? And but you're screaming at her because she just wakes up out of a blackout. She goes sober for maybe a day, and then she does it again, and then she does it again, and then again. And so 3/4 of the way through the book, I was like, I cannot stand her. I can't stand her. So I know I'm going to finish it because now I have to finish it. I'm thinking there's got to be some sort of sanity in this book, and it's going to end and everything's going to go well for Rachel and everything. Okay, no spoilers.
No spoiler?
I don't know. Should I give a spoiler alert? I mean, it has been out for quite some time.
We gave him 2 weeks.
And we did give him 2 weeks. Okay. So, spoiler alert. So I get to the end. No real happy ending. Yes, there is a conclusion, okay? She gets to pick the pieces apart for this murder. It's a murder thriller book. And she does figure it out, okay? She puts together the pieces. She figures out the parts that she was missing. And she figures out who the murderer was, okay? And I'll tell you because I know you didn't finish the book.
Yeah, well, I'll tell people why I didn't finish the book after you say
okay.
the ending.
So, so to put these characters together, 3 women, okay?
Okay.
Rachel and Tom were married. Rachel and Tom get a divorce. Tom, during their marriage, has an affair with Anna. Anna and Tom get married. Megan is a girl down the street who Tom hires to babysit their child because they have a child, right? He then has an affair with Megan. Okay.
Great
so
guy.
now these 3 women are intertwined, but they don't Anna and Rachel understand why, because they were both married to the guy, but they don't understand that he was also having an affair with Megan. Right. And when Megan gets murdered, her husband, Scott, is of course the number one suspect. And he looks like he should be. You're convinced he is. You're convinced they're going to find something. They couldn't find anything, but the whole book you think, okay, it's Scott. You're going to figure it out. But anyway, Tom murdered her. She got pregnant. Megan got pregnant. And so he murdered her.
Not Tom.
Yes, Tom.
Oh, Tom.
He was having an affair with her. Scott was her husband.
Oh, Scott was her husband. Okay.
Yeah. So Tom murdered her. Rachel figured it out. Okay. Before anybody else. And she went to Anna and she was like, it was Tom. He was having an affair. I remember stuff now and, what on. So anyway, I watched an interview with Paula Hawkins, who was the author of this book. And it was her first novel. She had written 4 other things that were not received well, but it was under another name. She was contracted out to write. And she said her heart wasn't really into it because they told her what to write. So she decides that she's going to write this book, and she's very poor. And her dad says, if you put 6 months into this book, I'll pay your bills and we'll see what happens. And what happens? Damn. She gets number 1. Okay. So, I think she got number 1. And I'm not going to say it wasn't well written, but I think Gone Girl, everybody keeps saying because of Gone Girl.
They keep comparing it to Gone Girl.
Right. And everybody's looking at it like the next Gone Girl.
Yeah.
It's not really, but it's that woman writing women tragedy kind of stories. Yeah. So when I was watching it, she was saying that, that she was raised in a very normal background and that Rachel was kind of just a figment of her imagination. And she wanted to take a woman who had lost it. She just completely lost everything, became an alcoholic and kind of make her a hero. Yes, she does piece it together, but I think that
Is she the hero?
Hero. Because at the end of the book, it's like I was sober 20 days. So you're like, okay, well, maybe she's going to get sober. Maybe there's a chance now. But I think that where it hit me is like women who are abused. And this is what she said, because I'm not making this up. Yeah. Doubt our judgment. And she wanted to prove how women. So Tom abused these 3 women. And they all doubted their judgment because he manipulated them so much that, Rachel didn't know what was up or down or sideways and then Anna started to get like that. And then Megan started to get like that. And she said, I just wanted to show that abused women really doubt themselves. And I was like, maybe that's where it hit me. Maybe that's why I started to hate it because she kept making bad decisions. Yeah. And I wanted to be like, make a good decision in your life. Yeah. But I think that men who abuse women are manipulative and they have to cloud your judgment or they can't abuse you. Yeah. It's that simple. If you had a clear thinking woman, could you abuse a clear thinking? No, you have to get them to, you're a liar. oh, you black out. You don't even know what you do. So she was like, oh my God, I'm this horrible person. And, and then he had Anna convinced to that, and she wasn't even drinking. But he had her in her house that she just never left, and then there's Megan, the babysitter. And then she starts questioning her whole life. And, it's just, and then I was like, okay, so well-written book, but it just hit a nerve with me on the bad decisions women make over a man. Yeah. I guess
I had the similar feeling or reaction when I was listening to it. So most of the time when I listen to the books is on my Friday, which is day off, right? And I go golfing. So I do all my normal routine, and golfing is such a stress reliever for me. I get so excited for it. I'm out there by myself, and I'm listening to a good book or a podcast, and I get really excited. Real nice day last Friday. Real good weather now here in Charleston. And I'm out there and I start playing this book, and I'm playing, and I'm like, this sucks because this girl is an alcoholic and she's having problems. She's having issues. She's just not going well for this girl. Okay. And then all of a sudden I'm like starting to feel anxious, and I'm like not playing well. And I'm thinking like, why am I'm not having fun out here? And then I'm thinking to myself, what's going on? And then it was ironic because you called me and you're like, hey, what's going on? I'm like, I'm playing golf, but I'm trying to listen to this book, and I feel like shit because this girl is an alcoholic and she just deciding to do stupid, dumb, and she blacks out. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to read this anymore. I just, why waste my time? I understand with the argument with the nonfiction versus fiction, but I'm not going to read something that's going to make me feel like shit. I don't even care if it ends well. I want to be interested in the story, not listening to like, oh, this sucks so bad, this sucks so. It's like scary movies. Okay, do I want to watch a scary movie? No, I don't want to watch a scary movie. I don't care. I don't care if she survives at the end, but she ran through the woods the whole time and all her friends died. Okay, I don't care. I'm not interested in watching a scary movie. Some people enjoy that feeling, right? Of the weird, I don't know, unnerving feeling of a scary movie or a book that has these tragedy book. I'm not a big fan. So when I was listening to it, I was like, I'm not. I like switched it over to a podcast. I'm like, oh, okay, let's laugh.
And I did it all weekend, and my weekend wasn't that great. Yeah. Okay. I know we're listening to it. I mean, people that are reading it, maybe you can skip through the bad stuff. I'm going to, but obviously there are tons and tons of people out there who enjoy this kind of a read.
Thousands.
But right. I was like in a bad mood. I'm like, why am I in a bad mood? Why am I in a bad mood? Oh, it's the book I'm listening. And I turn it off and be like, okay, let's listen to something happy, And I'm like, and then coming off of, we did with my mom, with my mom dying and her alcoholism. And of course, my dad was a drinker. And I don't know, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Did they make bad decisions? I think my dad made more bad decisions. But being, having to go to that mindset, it's like, it makes it seem like, when you're done with it, you're like, and I, anyone who ever takes a drink again after reading this book is absolutely crazy because the way they portray alcohol, I don't know. It was confusing to me.
I like having a drink, so I didn't want to finish it. So it's just.
But don't you? I mean, well, you didn't get to the end of the book, but seriously, like you start thinking, oh, am I going to have a drink and then I'm going to black out somewhere? Like, is that what's going to? Because she had no control over.
I think that's real life. I think blackouts do happen very often for people that are alcoholics.
That don't have but then she's not really getting any real help, and everybody's just pissed off at her. And
it's a life that a lot of people don't understand. So maybe it's just fantasy for a lot of people, but maybe for people,
when it hits close to home,
and you saw how that can tear apart a family and can ruin lives, and it's like this is not enjoyable. We read books to do a couple of things, and one of them is to uplift us. We watch movies to be entertained. Books are the same way all throughout time. You can learn something. Even if you're learning something from a history book, is entertaining in the sense of, wow, that's cool. I didn't know about that. And the same thing with the book. It's like, oh, this was a great story. Like we both read I Am Pilgrim, murder mystery, right? Any other book that's better than I Am Pilgrim? No. Find one. No. If you read I Am Pilgrim, find me a better book than I Am Pilgrim.
I wasn't depressed while I was listening
funny.
to it.
You're laughing throughout a lot of it, and I Am Pilgrim is a level above all books, I believe.
Right. And, like killing Reagan, it was like he was the president of the United States. He did a lot of things. He did, he was somebody to look up to. You weren't depressed. You were not, even when things happened, it was like you weren't depressed. You were like happy.
Even with killing Lincoln, you're like, damn, this is so crazy. He was a right. I read all the killing books except for Killing Jesus and Killing Patton, but killing Lincoln and killing Kennedy, you knew they were going to die. And yes, it is sad once they die, but you see all the good that comes out of it. And
they were great men, and they did things.
Stories, and it's it's different than the attitude of you have this girl that's the victim the whole time, and she's just getting hammered down, bam, 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 hammered, and you're just like, God, just stop.
And I just remember that, what she was trying to do with her is, make it that victim real. Yeah. Except for me, it's too real. And then I start like all those times in my life that I doubt. I was like, oh, I don't want to remember. And this is not cool for me. Yeah. I do not want to go to this dark place of, exactly. where she was. I don't want to go back down. And I wasn't never an alcoholic, but the whole, I wanted to portray a victim. It's like, why do I want to read a book about that?
Yeah.
I don't understand. So
the argument stands.
So the argument stands, Zach. I'm sorry.
Nonfiction versus fiction. And we're gonna next book is we're gonna switch back to nonfiction.
Thank God.
Maybe Zach can give us some books to read that'll uplift us. I don't know.
Maybe he can. When we have him on,
we will have him on, and we can debate this.
And our next book,
drum roll, please,
is going to be the Leah Remini story. And I don't even know what she calls this book, but it's about her life in Scientology. And here's what we know. She got out.
Which is hard.
But I'm just saying this is not going to be depressing, because maybe in the sense that what she had to go through. But guess what? She got out, and we know the end of the story. We know that that's what happened. And we want to know about Scientology. I don't know enough. And I thought, this is going to be, she's funny. Yeah. She reads the book. And she narrates it herself, so I think it'll be a really good listen.
It might be depressing for Scientologists.
I guess. I don't think any Scientologists are listening.
There might be one. I don't know. Who knows?
Okay.
If you're listening and you're a Scientologist, that next episode might not be for you. Or call us. Let's talk. I got some questions.
We have some questions for you. So
yeah, next book is that nonfiction book. We'll switch back for a little bit until we have Zach on here and he can point us in the right direction.
Right.
Maybe because we're just walking.
And I know that this is another one of those shows where we don't like something because people don't like when we don't like things. Did you know that?
We like
it actually offends people who don't.
I like Dan Carlin.
That we don't like things.
It offends people when we don't like things. Well, I mean,
people want us to talk about things we like. Well, we are not going to know. That's the thing. Unless we go see the movie and read the book, we aren't going to know if we like it or not.
This is raw.
This is it.
Because a lot of times we don't talk about this,
and let me tell you, if you liked Girl on the Train, let me tell you how many people out there also liked it. So you can go talk to them, and you can write a review on Amazon, and you can get all those.
Well, it's kind of that premise of what's right and wrong. Are you wrong if millions of people agree with you? What makes it right or wrong?
Right.
I love that idea. If someone say, "Oh, that's not right," well, why is that not right? Well, because it blah blah blah. Well, what if millions of people agree that that's the right way to do it, and you only have 1,000? What's right or wrong? Because what is it? Yeah. It goes down to morals. It's okay, so your morals are on here, your side, and then their morals are on that side, but hundreds of millions of people agree with that side. You're who's right or wrong? What is right or wrong?
And I'm sorry, when you've had, I think life is traumatic enough. And if you want to look at it, life is it's enough. I want happy and thing. I don't want depressing, or I should say my life was now I don't even go there. I don't make it, it was way too drama filled. I'm sorry. Just too much drama.
So Scientology next week.
Yes.
Movie is,
okay. First of all, I'm going to be in Toronto. I leave today.
Yes, your certification. Amazing.
My certification.
We'll talk about that next week for sure. Definitely.
Yeah. Do you have any last words of advice for me?
Put your head down and don't stop.
What if my heart explodes and then I die?
It's like the gloriness of dying on the battlefield.
Okay, well, I love you. Yes, that happened.
It's like what other better way to die than doing something that you absolutely love. It's like the warrior ethos of let me please die on the battlefield, not old and sick on a deathbed.
Because does feel like I'm going to die sometimes. And I do understand. They tell me it's my breathing. I get that. So if I can actually do this cert, I'm going to try my hardest.
Well, I tell you, every time I go into a really tough workout or endurance event or strongman competition, the first thing I look for whenever it starts is like, okay, what's my rhythm going to be? As I'm doing this exercise, am I going to breathe out during this part or am I going to exhale during this part? And that's all I'm going to focus on. Inhale this part, exhale that part, inhale this part. And I just sit there with that. It's kind of like a meditative type realm you go into, and it's kind of blissful because I'm like, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Oh, I need to go faster. Inhale, exhale, inhale. Oh, I need to go faster.
I'm hoping the experience itself will be,
Oh, it'll be amazing, and you'll see other people doing it, and you'll just be cultivated by the energy, and everyone will be cheering you on. You won't even think it, and it's just the adrenaline, the endorphins that are all released will be amazing. You'll get the high from it that'll just be unparalleled to any other experience you have, and you'll be completely addicted.
Awesome.
So
exciting. When I get back from Toronto on Sunday, before our next show, which we'll be taping next week, I'm going to go see 33 Miners. I think it comes out this weekend. I'm almost 100%
November 12th.
Because I was looking.
I think it said November 12th.
Okay, so for sure. It comes out this weekend.
I'm pretty sure. I'm not 100%. I'm like 80.
Well, that's the
like
one.
83.
So if that comes out before our next taping, that's the movie I'm going to see. And then for all you people who haven't seen Ant-Man,
Ant-Man was good,
theaters,
yeah.
But it's now out in Amazon.
You saw it, and then I saw it this past weekend. It was really good.
It's better than you think.
Yeah, it's better. I watched it alone.
Entertainment.
Because my wife, she's like, I said, I got a movie, Ant-Man. She's like, I'm going to go to bed. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to watch this movie. She's like, okay. And I'm doing other stuff, and then all of a sudden, I'm like sitting there watching. I'm like, it was pretty interesting.
Paul Rudd is a great guy. I love him.
Great actors in it.
And I walked out of the movie theater, and I was like, you know what? Ants have powers. Ants they're
very
awesome.
Crazy. I mean, even with the flooding down here, right?
Yeah.
We had the floods, I don't know, it was a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
You saw, when you'd see in the flood, you'd see like what looked like dirt. It looked like a pile of dirt floating across like the river. But it was, if you saw the movie, and it's real life, I saw it, where there would be ants. They all connect together and they float. And they just float to different places. I'm like, holy shit.
Crazy.
This is nuts. The ants just floating to different places. So,
and I just read somewhere, like there's 3 ants that's probably not even right. I don't know. Ants outnumber humans on this earth. So every time the ants get in trouble, all they need is more ants. They can get themselves out of a lot of trouble because they got so many of them. Yep. So it was very cool.
Very good
book. It was a very cool.
Movie. Yeah.
It was very cool. You walk out of there and you're like, yes.
Feels good. That's the kind of book we need to read.
That's just the kind of life we need to be having. Okay, so
controlling ants. Oh, excuse me. Sorry. Gracious. All right. So next week we're doing your certification. We are doing another book with Scientology, and we're going to be talking about
Leah Remini
Scientology, which is very interesting. Very interesting. And then we're going to talk about that 33, which is about the miners that got trapped 2010. Yeah.
Yep.
So that's
not that long ago, but
it's
current history, and I can't wait to see it because we saw it from one perspective. It'll be awesome to see it from and sure Antonio Banderas is in it. Jennifer Lopez. Who else?
That's really cool.
So it's gonna be cool. I'm really excited.
So, my friends, thank you for making it to the end. And if you have made it to the end, please leave us a review. It's right there in the show notes. There's a link. If you're on your iPhone and you just click the logo on your iPhone that's playing on your phone, and there'll be a link right there. Leave us a review. Click that, and it'll take you right to the page. Leave us a review. Let us know subscribe, definitely.
So you know when our shows are coming out.
Yep. Make sure you check the Facebook page so we can share like relevant, like just little clips for you on there of like you said, the Bill Riley interview, and that'll be a resource page for you guys. So
I try to post every day. So
you guys have the resource there available to you, and it's amazing. So thank you for making it to the end. Oh, we still don't have a sign off. God. We failed. We gotta get.
Our life has been too busy. Maybe next week, but we'll see.
Maybe next week. Maybe you'll learn something enlightening this weekend in Toronto.
Maybe somebody will say something. I'll be like, oh, that's cool.
My sign off.
I'll take that.
You think of your sign off. I'll think of my sign off, and then we'll just surprise next week. I'll be like, all right, go, Mom. And you'll be like, yeah.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Thank you guys. I appreciate the hell out of you for making it this far. We love you. We'll talk to you next week. Bye.
Bye.